we will. Okay. Hey, Shelby, Pastor Shelby, it's so great to have you here and have this chat with you. And we are excited to learn more about what our global mission workers are up to in the world here at First Christian Church in Madisonville, Kentucky. And Pastor Shelby is serving at the Dialogue and Interreligious Engagement Center in Palestine and with the Episcopal Church. And that's a wonderful thing. And I can't wait to hear more about it. So just the floor is to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I am actually currently in Wisconsin. I came home in late January, and I wanted to share a little bit about how I even got to the Middle East, and specifically to Ramallah, where I was living for 6 months. So when I was in high school, I started to learn about the Middle East and about different religions, and I just was enthralled. And it just kind of stuck with me for a really long time. And I went to a university and that had a Middle Eastern studies program. And I started studying religion and I did a lot of cross-referenced courses. And I was just absolutely fascinated by the region and the context, especially in the US, around discussions of the Middle East. It hurt my heart a little bit to hear people discriminated against in many ways. And so it just made me want to know more about these people and about these different religions. And that eventually turned into a career of sorts. So I went to seminary, and when I was there, I went on a 2-week trip to Israel, Palestine with my cohort. And we got the really real tour of Israel, Palestine. So it was built around learning about not just the historical holy places. We did some of that, but most of it was actually learning about the people who live in the land now, how it became the state that it is, and the realities of what it is for Palestinians to live under military occupation. And so I fell in love while I was there. I was like, this is amazing. I love this place. My cat might interrupt us. I apologize.
That's okay.
She came from Palestine. So there's actually a picture of her in my PowerPoint. And yes, she's going to join us. I don't know if you will be able to see her though. So I kind of mentioned offhand to my tour guide and my professor and my classmate, Fedi, that, I would love to come back to Palestine. And they were like, oh, are you serious? And I was like, well, I don't know. Like, I've thought about this for all of, 2 days,
Right.
But maybe. And Fedi was in the US for graduation a few months later. And Fedi is from Ramallah. He lives in Ramallah. He's from Zababdeh, which is north of Ramallah in Palestine. So he is Palestinian. He's an Episcopal priest. And he was in Chicago for graduation, and we had dinner with the group from the trip. And he turned to me at one point in the evening and he said, how serious were you about coming back? And I was like, as serious as you might want me to be, And he was like, okay. And that kind of ended the conversation for a while. And then he was back in Chicago about a year later after my graduation, and as I was leaving to go to Spain for pilgrimage. And we got lunch together. And he proposed this interreligious dialogue center. And I went, oh, wow. And he went, we would love to have you. I was like, okay. And then, life happened and things continued on. And then a global pandemic happened. And I found myself kind of in a place of, I don't know where I'm going. And Fedi kind of popped into my messages and went, we would love to have you because our project got delayed and now is the time to really get this restarted. And I knew, even if it wasn't going to be me, Global Ministries would love to potentially be part of this project, because they are partnered with the Episcopal Church, the Episcopal Diocese of Jerusalem already. So I happened to be the person that interviewed and then got hired and sent, which was great for everyone involved. But so the project is how to bring together people of different religions to talk about religion in daily life, and how religion can hurt and harm, how it has hurt people, how it has been weaponized, and how it can be used now as a healing tool to build community and to build peace and to build the beloved community that us Christians talk about and are attempting to build as Jesus taught us to. And so that meant for me some website design and some, clerical administrative pieces, some grant writing, and a lot of program development. So I got to help develop a program for summer and for youth to bring together youth of different religious traditions. Cool. They learn about religion in school, but they learn about their own religion in school. So they split off to their own religious classes during the school day, and they learn from their Muslim teachers or their Christian teachers or their Jewish teachers, and they don't learn about one another in that context. So getting them in the same space to learn about one another and to do an art project to talk about their culture and their religion with one another and explore those things together. Not only to learn about religion, but also to break down some of those barriers that get built because of the political context of the place before military service and conscription, especially for Israeli students, because it is a mandatory service to the Israeli military for everyone at the age of 18. And I think it's a 3-year term that they serve typically. And so it's really targeted towards 15 to 18-year-olds to make sure we're able to build those connections in those communities before they go into the military, where they're really taught and indoctrinated in many ways into one specific concept of who a Palestinian is and how to treat Palestinians. And of course, we want Palestinians to be able to show and learn and get to know Israelis in the process as well. So it's all of those things. And there's some other projects we worked on. That's just the one I'm most excited about because I got to be creative and artistic with it as well in the planning. And I love art personally, so it was very exciting to get to plan a program around sharing and creating art.
That's amazing. I love that.
And I did fun stuff. So I'll show some pictures now of just my time, and I'll kind of explain a little bit. And then I want you to ask me whatever questions you might have or that you might think your congregation would like to know more about.
Sure.
See if I can remember how to do this because I just did it. Okay. Okay, so these photos are from Bethlehem. Can you see them?
I can.
Great. So the top one is the skyline of Bethlehem from the top of an olive wood shop. They do a lot of olive wood carvings there in Bethlehem. Their economy is really based on tourism, so they've been hurting a lot over the last 2 years. And so one of the shops, you can walk all the way up onto the roof of the building and you can see out over Bethlehem. And this is the view from that shop. The photo down below that is actually in the Church of the Nativity. And if you look behind the little candles, there's like a little alcove, and that is where they say the manger was. However honest the cave narrative is right. In terms of the birth story. And then the photo of the graffiti is actually graffiti on the border wall that cuts through Bethlehem. And so it's graffiti about a camera and soldiers and the gun and, watching versus the guns getting pointed at you. it's the two ways in which they really observe the Palestinian people. So they have cameras always watching, and they have guns always pointed. The graffiti across the wall across Palestine is really beautiful and evocative, and I have a number of photos that really are just, the artwork is moving. And that's why I was so excited to incorporate art into our project, because art is such an important piece to express what they are going through under occupation, and what their daily lives are, and what their frustrations are, and to really explore that in a creative and beautiful way. So these are some photos from Jerusalem. Most of these are actually from the church, the Holy Sepulchre Church. So where at the site at which Jesus was likely crucified, it is likely he was crucified there. It's where most of the crucifixions happened in the city, actually, under the Roman rule. And then the one photo of the church that looks like the outside painting of the church up above the arch, that is the Church of Mary Magdalene, just outside the Garden of Gethsemane, which is on the Mount of Olives. And like I said, I did some fun things, right? So I did a lot of hiking. I took a dance class. My hiking group, often we would have meals together after our hikes, and I got to celebrate Christmas in Ramallah. And I got to participate in the olive harvest. Oh, my one picture got a little cut off. That's sad. So I got to help pick the olives for the, and that's an annual tradition. Families will take off work and come together, and they will spend days together. You know, everyone brings food, you sit down together mid-morning for breakfast. Everyone brings water to share, and you pick all of the olives on the family trees. And it was beautiful. I got to do that with Reverend Fedi's family in Zimbabwe. Some more fun pictures, more hiking. I had a group of people that I got to know that were friends that showed me around Ramallah. And then the other photo is from, you see some more of the street art. And this is actually Haifa, which is in Israel and not the West Bank. Mm-hmm. And yeah, more fun. So there was community. I got to participate in holiday stuff. I had made some friends. That's actually at a sushi restaurant that I'm with my friends. So Ramallah is like a very cultured and diverse city, very modern city. So it felt not too unfamiliar. And I got a cat, and I brought her home with me. And her name is Elba, and I call her my little Palestinian refugee as a joke. But mostly I adore her, and it was absolutely worth all of the headache to get her back to the US. Aww. All right. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now.
Okay. I love the pics.
Good. I'm glad it's always hard to choose which ones to share with everyone, because I have so many from my time.
Yeah. Yeah. So is your time there done now?
So I am serving remotely until the end of this month, and then I really get to concentrate on doing things like this with congregations here in the US.
Mm-hmm. So you were technically, were you one of the Global Mission Interns for young people? That's awesome.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome. So those are all 1 year, 2 year type commitments, right?
Typically, yeah.
Yeah. My brother did that in El Salvador for 2 years. So that's,
wow.
Yeah. So that's wonderful. I mean, would you recommend it for young people to consider this as a experience?
Absolutely. I think it was really incredible to get to be abroad and to experience a new culture. I think also getting to experience being the minority person in the space. Mm-hmm. You know, no one around me spoke English. I mean, they all spoke English, but Arabic was their first language. English was not super comfortable all the time. So I spent a lot of time not knowing what was happening around me, which was probably, you know, a great learning experience. Getting to be the only American in the room was really interesting. Getting to be the only what we would consider in the United States white person in the room really taught me how to navigate those spaces and be more culturally aware and be more open to diverse spaces. So I think it's a great experience, and you don't get to experience a new country until you go. And I think you know more about the US and you learn more about your home country being in a new place.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. That's wonderful. Well, what do you think about, what would you want, you know, here I am in Western Kentucky. What do you want church people to know about the people there of Palestine?
Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, they are probably the most welcoming and loving people you will ever encounter. I don't think there was a single situation in which I didn't walk into a new place and I wasn't immediately embraced. And I know that goes counter to like what our ideas are of Arab people, right? Like we don't know a lot about Arab people in the United States. But there's been this stigma built around speaking Arabic and being from Arab cultures and being from the Middle East. It's very welcoming, very loving, very family centered. I actually compared it to Midwest culture quite a lot. And Southern culture quite a lot. Everyone was like, oh, is it weird to like be in a space where everything is so communal? And I was like, you know, it's actually pretty similar where I grew up. You know, we take care of one another. We deeply care about each other. Food is really important. You can't have one plate. You have to have two plates at least. You have to eat everything on your plate because you got to let them know that you loved it and that you enjoyed it and that you're appreciative. They will keep filling you full of food and tea and sweets, and you will be family by the end of the day. I cannot think of a place that has more welcoming and lovely people that I've encountered, and I've gotten to travel a little bit. So it's almost shocking how kind and loving they are to everyone. And I would say that I think a lot of people in the United States, especially, we have this concept that it's a very complicated situation between Israel and Palestine. And it is complicated. I don't want to say it's not complicated because there's many layers and there's a lot around it. But I think simplicity and like coming to it with a simple understanding is that there are people who are being oppressed actively, who are being hurt daily, and there are children being arrested and there are children being imprisoned. And I would encourage everyone to just explore what that actually is and what that looks like, and to open their hearts to hearing the stories of Palestinians from Palestinians, because what they go through on a daily basis is unimaginable unless you witness it yourself, or you're taking the time to really listen to them share about it. It's heartbreaking to see these things. You know, to see a 15-year-old guide me through a checkpoint, a 15-year-old Palestinian guide me through a checkpoint to make sure, you know, I get through safely and they get through safely, and there isn't any reason for the soldiers to become a problem, right? And to hurt them in any way. And the fact that at 15, that's just something they know how to navigate, I can't, it hurts to witness. And yeah, so I think that's the thing that I would encourage people most is just learn a little bit about it. I have some book recommendations that I can give to just start learning about it and reading about it and hearing the stories of the people who have lived this, because I want to liken it to the Ukrainian and Russian situation that's happening right now. You know, we can clearly see that there's a bad and a good, and all of it's bad, right? Because war is not good. But you know, there are people whose home is being invaded and they're being hurt and they're being killed, and that happens and has been happening in Palestine for 70 years. And it's really sad and it's really upsetting. And I feel honored that I got to witness it firsthand and that I get to talk about it like this, because I don't think it is talked about. And it's something that a lot of people don't want to talk about because it's so big and it's so sad and it's so upsetting and it's hard to talk about.
Yeah. And it's happened for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious about the camp. I love the idea of this camp with the three religions and kids coming together. And I guess maybe I'm wondering, I mean, how did you see campers' lives change? I'm assuming it's a day camp, or was it an overnight experience where they stayed?
So we haven't gotten to do it yet, but the idea is overnight space.
Yeah.
No, that's okay. Yeah. I was mostly in program development. We were in our first year, so we were working on figuring all of these things out. So it's actually going to be very complicated to figure out because there are so many rules around the integration of Palestinians and Israelis, and that complicates all of our projects, but especially ones having to do with kids. So just finding a place where everyone feels safe is number one. So yes, there will probably be overnight situations because Palestinians, because of the way their permits work, it's actually really hard for them to move back and forth across the border. They often can't get permits, or at any point Israel can shut the checkpoints, so they can shut down the border and hold you at a border, and not allow you to travel. So it would have to be overnight, so we weren't subjecting the kids to that day after day. So overnight in a space, probably a space owned by the church or by a third party, so it felt more open. They would have some learning classes about other religions, so like kind of a standard class space, and then they would get some leisure time and time to do fun stuff together. They would cook meals together, they would clean together in their little pods that we would have created, and then they would participate in a program called Interfaith Photovoice, which is a program based in the United States. And Photovoice is a sociological tool where you tell your story through photography, because most people have one of these things in their pocket. And so everyone's got a camera. So anyone can take a picture and share it with someone else about, their prompts that they're given so they know what to maybe think about when they're taking photos, and then what to talk about as they're sharing their photos. So there's prompts for the taking of the pictures, and then there's prompts for the small group discussion in sharing.
That's awesome. And so did you have a date out there yet for the camp, or is it still in development?
It's still in development. Our hope was this year, but funding has been a bit of a nightmare situation. So it's probably not going to happen in full scale this year, but we're looking at a smaller project this year that might just be local to Ramallah, around Christian and Muslim students. And then next year, when we have more time and space, it will be probably the end of July.
Wow, that's interesting. Thank you. And I'm curious. I've heard a lot, or seen things about Palestinian Christians leaving in just huge numbers. Is that something you heard, saw, talked about a lot?
It is. It's something that's a really big concern of the church, and not just in membership, but in they're losing their community members because they don't feel safe. They feel marginalized in many ways, and they feel like they can't stay where they are. So it's safer for them to move to another country. I know a lot of young people will study abroad, and once they've studied abroad, they'll just stay abroad and they don't come home, because they grew up feeling not safe in their home. They grew up under military occupation, not feeling secure and safe in where they are, and not feeling secure and safe in their futures. So they choose for stability and safety abroad instead. And so that's happening really, really fast with the Christian community. They've lost a lot of people, and a lot of people have moved out of the country.
Yeah. It's a hard situation.
It is. It's very sad. It's very similar in Syria. A lot of the Christian community, which was like 30% of the population, has moved out, and now they only have about 12% of their population is Christian in Syria. So overall, in the Middle East, a lot of Christians are feeling like they have to leave, and not because they haven't been welcomed religiously by their neighbors, but it's a geopolitical situation where, you know, they don't feel safe at all wherever they are, regardless of the situation, and so they flee and find refuge elsewhere. And it just happens that because it's happening across the board, it's really impacting the Christian community there, unfortunately, in the homeland of Christianity, right? Which is very sad.
It is. It is. Well, so I'm just curious, what's next for you? Do you know?
Yeah, so I have started a new position, so I'm doing double duty at this moment, and I am a trauma chaplain in a hospital in Madison, Wisconsin.
Wonderful. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a very rewarding job. I just recently started, but so far it's been amazing to get to work with the people I work with and the patients and the families that I get to work with.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me tonight. And really, it's just good for people to know, especially young people in the church, to know that there's opportunities for them to serve and use their gifts. And I wish you many blessings on this next chapter. And
thank you.
I know you're going to continue to use your experience in Ramallah for so many years to come. And that's amazing. So,
yes, thank you for having me. This was lovely to get to share a little bit, and hopefully, you know, the congregation enjoys what I have had to share. And if they have any questions that they have, please go ahead and send them my way, and I'll see if I can write something up. Okay.
Are you on Facebook?
I am on Facebook.
Okay. That's where I'll post this. So maybe we can connect there. So yeah, thank you so very much. And I wish you many blessings on this next chapter. And I hope sometime it'd be great if we could have you in person here in First Christian Madisonville.
I know, that would be so nice, especially hopefully things continue to keep getting better and better.
I know, finally. Yeah. So you have a good night. Stay safe and say hello to your cat for me.
I will. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.